Today's episode is sponsored by Shove Coffee. Shove is a small coffee roasting company based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, with a primary focus on prioritizing people across the supply chain to create a more accessible, cooperative, and equitable coffee industry. You can check them out on Instagram under the name Shove Coffee, that's SHUVCOFFEE, or visiting their website, shovecoffee.com, for more info. That's SHUVCOFFEE.com. Hello, I'm Edie Quinn, and this is Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. Happy New Year, everyone. We have a great episode lined up for you today, but before we get started, I would like to remind you about our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine. You can go there to get music sneak peeks, read zines, and all kinds of other fun stuff. It's a great way to show your support for the show and all kinds of other work that I do. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing a brand new song by Stential called Deforestation, featuring Kris Beck on bass and vocals. Labels, get in touch with the band if you'd like to help with a vinyl release.
I guess, like, as cliche as it might sound, it was actually the band Stential.
Okay.
So, like, I went to high school in a pretty cool high school. I went to high school where, like, future members of, like, Neil Perry and You and I, and The Now, like, all those, like, early hardcore bands went to before they were forming, you know? So, like, we were all, like, in the punk rock, like, Lifetime and Bouncing Souls and stuff like that. And then I got into like the slap a hand type stuff, I guess. I think the record label was called like the hardcore punk, like the power violence stuff. And and a group of my friends at that time, they started this band called Red All Over, which would eventually go on to form Neil Perry and Hot Cross and, you know, way down the line. So they invited me to go see their show. Now, I wasn't really into that kind of music at that point. You know, I was still into like the punk rock stuff. But I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go and support my friends. And I remember on the way there, I was listening to Capitalist Casualties. They were like the hardest band I knew at the time. And like me and my buddy that was riding with me were just going off excited to see a show. And when we got there, we saw like the bands loading in, and I just remember looking at like it was a band. It was the show was Red All Over, this other band called The Red, I think, and it was You and I and Seisha. And when I saw those bands coming in, I was like, look at these nerds. Like, just like the way they were dressed. I didn't like one of them had on like a sweater vest and like a button down shirt. And I was like, what the hell kind of scene is this, right? So, you know, Red All Over played, and I'd played with them a bunch of times, and they were fun. And then the Red played, and then Seisha came on. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I never heard anything like that before. And it was like such a defining moment in my life, the way I heard music, the way music affected me, the way the music touched me. I don't know what the hell it was, but those people were going nuts. Their strings were breaking, there were bloody knuckles, like the dude was wrapping a mic cord around his neck, and it was just wild. Mm-hmm. And I got back in my car on the ride home, and I put Capitalist Casualties back on, and I think I actually hit eject and threw the tape out the window. I was like, this just doesn't do it anymore. Like, I can't listen to this anymore. I need to find that music right there, you know?
Yeah. So it sounds like kind of overall the the performance was kind of the real kicker. Like, your takeaways from it were this like extremely visceral performance, like being like the way that they express themselves and stuff was the biggest thing. But what what did you like as far as like the music itself? Like, what was your biggest takeaways from like just say Seisha in particular? Like, w- uh, what did the guitars like? Did it just you were just like I don't have a frame of reference for this. I don't know what this sounds like, or like what did you think?
Right. So yeah, there was definitely I didn't have a frame of reference, but I knew from like the gate that like I don't know how else quite to explain it, but the guitars just sound pretty to me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, wow, they're really really pretty, and like I could feel how the guitar. I don't know if that makes any sense. The
Sure.
guitar made me feel a way that never a guitar had never made me feel before.
Yeah.
Like I could get the feeling of the song from the guitar, and I was like, wow, that's truly amazing.
Yeah. I I had like the first one of the first screamo bands that I ever saw live was Usurp Synapse, and it was a different experience, like because like you could not. There was like no. Their guitars were like it was loud and you could hear it, but like it until it like stopped, till everything stopped and there was like a noodly part that Don would play or something. It was like indecipherable, and that did something else to me that I never, because I was listening to like Promise Ring and I was listening to like plenty of emo bands, and so these pretty guitars that got me down in in the depths of my soul, like I was used to that, but this was like I was like, wait, like that feeling that I have all the time when I'm about to just crawl out of my fucking skin and explode or whatever, like this is it, like in musical form. And
Right.
that was something I hadn't experienced, but it's like, yeah, it goes back to what you were saying, where it's like you just can't, you couldn't, you can explain it in some words, but yeah, it affect you in this way that was bigger than those words, and or else
For
we wouldn't
sure.
be talking about it 26 years later. But
Right, right. Yeah.
yeah,
It's pretty wild how like I have this I guess it's this saying. It's like I wish that you could hear music the way I hear music. And I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm just saying, like there's plenty of people like it just does something. It
yeah,
does something to me. And when I hear it, like I hear it all at once, but then I could hear everything separately. And I don't know if I'm being like ridiculous or not, but like it just takes me over.
yeah,
It transcends where I'm at or what I'm doing or what I'm thinking about.
yeah. I think there's a lot of people like that, and to me, it's always surprising when somebody's just like, yeah, I'm not into music. Like there are legit people that just like they don't. It's just like not a thing for them, and I'm always just like, what? Like
Right.
that must just be like, when somebody like like if you're eating food but you don't have you don't have a like taste buds or something, like
Right. Right.
it like it's such a hard thing to grasp. Like you're out here and this like magical stuff is all around the air, all around you all the time, and it's just like not you're like you're just like I like what's on your mind, like while that
Right.
happens, like I can't wait to get home and watch TV or something. I mean, I don't know. That's I don't know. But yeah, so like, you 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 chuck the capitalist casualties tape and you go home and you're like, I need a guitar, or like what was the what
So
was the plan from there?
I had a guitar at that point. I was playing in this band called Color by Number, which like we had like a demo tape out. We had recorded. We were like pretty well known in our area. So like we were playing, like we used to call ourselves New Jersey Snot Punk. I don't know if that ever really caught on or not. Like we were like sort of pop punk, sort of like hardcore punk. So I had a guitar, but I wasn't really like good enough or not good enough. I don't know. Like I couldn't figure out how to play the music I wanted to play. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't play. Maybe I was just too critical on myself. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
I couldn't make the music that I wanted to hear, so I was just playing music that I could play because I knew I had to play music. So it wasn't until I would say maybe like a year later or so, at this time, I'd met more people. That band, like I mentioned, Neil Perry had formed and they were becoming popular. And their original drummer that actually left their band, he was a buddy of mine named Derek that I went to school with. He contacted me and he was like, yo, you want to start a band that like kind of sounds like Neil Perry? And I was like, sure. And when we formed, like, I think we sounded kind of more like a shitty version of like the Locust or something. But it was more in tune with like what I wanted to play. Like I was like, wow, like now we're doing some really cool stuff, and we gained like a little bit of traction. We only played one show though. We played one show before we everything came crashing down. But that was like the closest at that time that I was like playing the music that I wanted to hear, like that I wanted to play.
Yeah. Um, and it's hard to you keep bringing Neil Perry up, and like you had just sent me those songs, and so that makes sense now. Like you know you're like, these were recorded by Josh Jacobowski, and I was
Right.
like, well, how that happened. So now that's making sense because you've known each other for a long time. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, obviously, we're still talking about things that happened, a long time ago.
Sure.
But we're, more or less here to talk about Stential.
Right.
But so, like, a sort of, from 25 years ago or whatever until now, like, what other bands have you played in that you maybe like people can find them and listen to them that you're, more or less still proud of? Like if you've had any releases floating around out there on the digital spaces.
Right. So I was in this band called Ichabod for a while,
Okay.
and we were we were pretty good, pretty known. And I wish I still had a recording. Again, we just made like tapes. If someone could find a copy of that, that would be phenomenal for me.
When was that about?
That was like mid 2000s, maybe
Okay.
early 2010s. So here's the story.
So this is
Like
like just pre Bandcamp, like minutes before
right,
Bandcamp. Yeah.
right. So what happened? Unfortunately, for myself, I became addicted to drugs. So I kind of like left the scene for a little while. I kind of went dark. I kind of did the whole like, where are they now? Like before I arrived anywhere. Like I kind of like ruined a lot of things before ever really making it anywhere.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like where there's like this big gap, I guess, like in my resume, is that like I kind of went dark for a little while.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, one of my biggest regrets in life is stepping away from the music scene to fulfill self-centered desires.
And was it like, was coming back to the music scene like was that a thing that was compelling you to get everything back in order to like to do that, or?
Oh, for sure, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, you know, I had to do this to do that. You know what I mean? Whichever way you wanted to put first. Like I had to get clean to come back to music, and I had to come back to music to get clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like I had to do both, because this is the only thing. Music is like the only thing that's ever really, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like done anything for me, emotionally or
Yeah.
spiritually or whatever. You know.
Yeah. And I don't want to like sidestep over the fact that that's quite an accomplishment that you've, done for yourself to like, manage to be where you are and like playing music again and like trying to like have goals and meet those goals, but like you when you were talking about Ichabod, was that sort of more or less like your first band when you like managed to get back to music and start making music again? Is that like, was that the first thing?
So Ichabod was like the end. You know, that was kind of like where everything fell apart.
Oh, that was the end. Okay,
Right. And
because
Stential is kind of like
that's
what
the
got me
return.
right.
Okay, because like when you were talking about like a gap, like I didn't know if we were talking still like the gap being 1999 to 2010, but we're talking about it's like 2010 until more recently, like
Right.
yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know. It's it's wild. There's definitely like, you know, I don't, this podcast specifically, like a lot more people listen to it than I think I realize on a daily basis, because some of the shit that I say sometimes, like I'm like, I don't know if I want 500 to 1,000 people hearing that, but, but it does. Right. But anyway,
Right.
like it, it is wild. Like I, I, there's some good friends of mine from back in the day, and they had this band called Elena Trella, and we played, like, one of my old bands played lots of shows with them, and well, a couple of my old bands, I guess, but they never, never did like a huge tour. They never had like a 7-inch. They just had this demo tape, and I still have it, and when I went to do this compilation, I just was like, oh, I want to review this in my zine, and I want to like ask them if it's okay if I digitize, one of these songs and put it on this compilation. And like somebody had already done it, like not them, but like, there's this awesome page called the DuPage County something. I can't remember, but it's got like all this awesome and like it's obscure like screamo and punk and indie from like 90 the mid 90s until the mid 2000s, when some of this stuff was harder to come by. And like I just was like, how, like, there can't be but like 30 or something of these demo tapes out there, and I have one of them, and then you find out somebody already, uploaded it, et cetera, like, so, the hope is still there that somebody
Right.
does have that. It's just, yeah, it's wild. Like, sometimes, when you go on YouTube or whatever, and you search for something, you're like, no one knows about this, and then it's
Right. This tiny obscure little project that you thought never made a dent in the world, and next thing you know, there's like a group of people that it was like super important to.
Yeah, exactly. And so you never know. How do you sort of like come back into the scene, as it were, or like, getting to meet and play people after sort of like being absent, and how does that result in the formation of Stential?
Right. So I started by, um, I guess, just going to like bigger venues and seeing bands that were like um, catching my ear nowadays. Like bands like Pianos Become the Teeth or Touche Amore, and like some like the newer stuff. And I was kind of like, man, these bands are really good. They're kind of like doing the same thing to me that like bands back then used to do. So then I started meeting people at these shows and going to shows with certain people, and then they were taking me to like smaller shows, like I don't want to say local show. I guess they're local shows, but just shows where bands that like were only 40 or 50 people were going to, and I was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
these guys are really fucking good too, and I heard this band Kirby Kiss, and they did to me the first time I saw them what Seisha did to me back in '97 or '98. Like they just blew my mind, and I was like, man, if I could just make music like that one day again, that would be phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So I met this guitar player. His name's Harry Pomeroy. Um, and we were discussing starting a band, and actually actually what happened with him first, I was like, you know what, let's just start we went out to dinner one night, just to talk about like what kind of band we were gonna to create. And one of the things on the menu said fruit donut. It was like one of the desserts. And I was like, yo, let's just start like a hardcore punk band called Fruit Donut. Like the name sounds so silly, but then when we come out, it's like this amazing like punch you in the face punk band. And he was down with it. He found a drummer, and we got together and we started playing, and it just wasn't working. Like we were trying to like force ourselves into like a genre of music that just wasn't fitting.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want to call it quits. So one day he comes to practice and he just starts playing this really pretty riff, like this really amazing sounding song, and I just started screaming to it. Like I just started like it was just almost, I didn't feel like what's another word besides force, but like I almost felt like compelled, right? I felt compelled, like these things that were inside of me to just start screaming. And once we were done practice that night, we were like, yo, this is our sound, like this is what we're going for. And that's what became like one of the first songs that came out on the He's Sleeping EP, called 5 Minutes Before.
Oh, okay. So my next thing was going to be, did the drummer stick around?
So no.
No. Oh, okay.
The drummer did not stick around. We played a few shows with our first drummer, and we started recording with our drummer, but he turned out to not be the right fit.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, one of those things where it's like you could definitely see, like, if somebody was like, I thought we were going to be like fast, and, I thought we were going to come out and be fast and aggressive, and, here we are, like, this is pretty, and people are, people are all in their feelings, like, we're not, this isn't what I
Right.
signed up for.
Right.
Yeah, you could see how that would happen, but yeah, that was like, but essentially, like, that was the band from then.
Yeah.
You and Harry, like, writing songs together.
For sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
and it was just a guitar and drums, and I was just doing vocals at the time. And bass players are kind of hard to come by. You know, we had talked to a few guys that we knew, and we played them the demo tape, and a lot of them were like, "Yeah, I'm not really into playing that kind of music,"
Mm-hmm.
So Harry was like, you know what? Why don't you just pick up a bass? Because I'd played guitar, 100 years ago. So I picked up the bass, and that's kind of how I became the bass player of Stential. It's just like, we needed a fucking bass player, so I picked up the bass and started playing.
Yeah.
And that kind of rounded out the band, and we went forward from there.
Yeah, I've never like I think that the thing for me was always drummers. It's never been bass. Bass is always like, yeah, I know some people, but drummers
Right.
is another story, and that's more or less how I ended up playing drums. But yeah, it also reminds me of like the only time that I ever was in that situation where the band was like, we need a bass player. It was like not good. It was like, I don't know. I don't know if people would be listening to this, but yeah, it was like the like they had like eight or 10 songs, and they like
Mm-hmm.
couldn't figure out which ones they actually liked and didn't like, but they wanted me to learn all of them, and
Right.
they were all more or less the same. And I was just like, so I was just like we like I more or less joined the band to under the assumption that like we were going to do something kind of different, but they wanted me to learn these other songs first, and they never. And it was always I was always just like, well, let's try some of this other stuff instead. And it was always just like, but you have to learn these songs first. But we don't really know which ones we're gonna keep and which ones we're gonna. And I'm just like, this is the kind of thing that people should decide before they ask somebody to learn.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I I love playing bass on my own recordings. I think it's a lot of
Right.
fun, and I don't know. I feel like I talk about this kind of stuff a lot, but it's like every instrument that I play, like I more or less like tap into like a different side of myself, and
Sure.
and
Sure.
I enjoy that because um, like that's what we're trying to do when we're trying to create something, right? Is to express ourselves, and
Right.
we're trying to be like understood or whatever, right? So you're sort of your part of your process can be going inside your own self and finding those parts of yourself that you didn't need to know you needed to express, right? So
Right. Right.
so yeah, I like bass, and
Yeah.
it's funny that like that was the thing that y'all couldn't. I mean, Jersey must be different, like where you where you are, like where it's just like drummers. You're just like, oh well, that drummer didn't work out. We got another drummer just like that, because like I don't even know if I know another drummer in my town.
Well, oddly enough, our New Jersey is not top heavy in drummers at all.
Yeah,
In fact, our drummer is like in like 4 or 5 other bands in New Jersey, and that's pretty
that's
across the
typical of
board.
drummers.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. So we actually got really lucky when we picked him up. He kind of like really just like solidified the sound that we were going for, and just really puts everything together.
yeah, and I mean, that's the uh, not not knocking any other part of the recording, but that's the thing that really like caught my ear first off as well, is how good the drums sound on those new songs, because like um I never like I can play drums, like like I write I write a lot of music, and so I think that I play the drums pretty well to to service like a song, you know? Like
Right.
I can't do I well, I shouldn't say I can't cuz I'm always like cutting myself short, I think, but like
Mm.
I don't typically like I'm not I'm just like how does the song go? And I want everything to line up around that. And that doesn't mean like the guitar necessarily, right? Because
Right.
the song could be, I could already know what the vocals are going to be like. I could already have like extra instrumentation or something that's going to like guide the ship or whatnot, you know, or it could be the bass like, or it could even start with the drums. The drums could be the most important part, right? It's just like
Right.
if something else is leading the way, then I don't worry about the drums like being like the center of attention or whatever. And also like I don't have a room that records like the drums don't always like, oh wow, the drums sound great in this room, right? And I also like am not like I've been playing drums for a long time, but I'm still just like I have to use a drum dial to tune the drums. Like
Right.
like I don't have an ear for the drums like that, you know?
Hmm.
And so when there's a recording where the drums sound really great, like I'm always just like, yeah, I don't know like who else is in this band, but you know, it's like the drums just steal the show for me when it sounds good. And the drums specifically the snare on that new recording, I was like, yes, this is it. This is what's going on. But
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
so we wound up going to a different studio. Our first EP was recorded at Fever Dream down in South Jersey.
Hmm.
And that was when we were there. We were actually in between drummers. So Zach from Fever Dream actually filled in, and he did the drums on our first recording. So then we found Dom, our current drummer, and contact and actually it was kind of funny. I wound up contacting Josh through Instagram because I guess he didn't have Instagram for a long time. And then I saw him comment on something, and I was like, "Yo, Josh, we went to high school together." He's like, "Yeah," and he's like, he commented something about that he had a recording studio, and I was like, "Ah, dang, I wish I would have known that a few months ago." And he's like, "Ah, man, come on, stop by. We'll talk." So that's how I got in contact with him. And when we went there with him, he's like, just like what you said, he's like, so long as you got a good drummer, your band sounds good. And
Yeah.
and Dom started playing, and he was like, "Holy shit, this record is going to be amazing." It
Yeah.
was like we didn't even lay down any guitars, we didn't lay down a bass or vocals, but like once he got done drumming, he was like, "This thing's gonna sound fucking good." So we knew
Yeah,
we were on to something.
it's wild. It's like in comics, like they're like, yeah, great art can save bad writing, but like great writing cannot save bad art.
Mm.
It's kind of that way with drums, right? Like great drums, like, or at least like if the drums sound great, like everything else can be a little bit, you know, it can
Sure.
it can whatever, but it can't be the other way around. Like you can have really great sounding guitars, and if the drums are like sloppy, or if the drums like, you know, like if the guitars and the vocals and stuff sound great and the drums just sound okay, that's fine. You know, they're better if they sound better, but like
Right.
if they are if they're just out of time, or if they just genuinely sound bad, then you're kind of you're kind of like, what is happening here,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure, for sure. And that was like the first, I'd say, 6 7 months of Stential was trying to make a drummer fit that just wasn't fitting.
Yeah.
You
And was
know,
it
and
style or?
it was style. It was. I think we wanted him to be a little bit more intricate and be a little bit more fancy than he could,
Mm,
and he would get frustrated.
yeah.
And also some of it was we just weren't playing what he wanted to play. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I
Like,
mean that's fair, you know?
right,
Like,
for sure, for sure.
yeah. It's weird because sometimes like the you know, I have no idea. Like if my theory on this is right or whatever. I have no clue. But like, it's like, and I mean, I could probably look some of this stuff up easy enough, but I always think about it at the wrong times. But it's like that band Sam I Am, like their first LP, like the drummer sounds like a metal drummer,
Right.
and I think it makes that record, like if that record had a different drummer, I think it would be so different, and I
Mhm.
don't think I would like it as much because there's
Sure.
these weird, like borderline, like metal drums over this punk emo, like songs,
Hmm.
and it's such an interesting thing, and I think it's the same drummer that plays on Soar, but and I have both of those albums on vinyl, so I should
Right.
know. And I've been listening to them and reading the lyrics and everything else for as long as I've had them. But like, it's yeah, it's just like sometimes that can work out, but sometimes it's just like, you know, um, like sometimes it's like maybe the drummer's like, yeah, I wasn't that into this when we started, but then they sort of come around, and I think maybe if it is the same drummer, say from Sam I Am self-titled to Soar, that's kind of what happened. Is like that drummer was like straight up just a metal drummer, and then like came around and sort of like, oh,
Right.
I should play these songs a little differently than I was kind of before ish,
Sure.
and that can happen, and that can be really interesting, or it can just be, a situation like you're describing where it's just like, nah, this was a little bit like butting of heads, or whatever, just the meeting of ideas wasn't happening.
Right.
Yeah. But you know I'm interested, like, so were you already like when when you're doing the recording for He's Sleeping, were you already like sort of in the know about, like, labels? Like, didn't like BDSJ put that out?
Yes. Yes. BDSJ put out that.
Yeah.
Correct.
And
Yeah. So
how
we
did
had.
you how did you come to like know them and be in contact with them and stuff?
So it was like through Instagram.
Yeah.
Definitely through Instagram. I don't recall if like they liked one of my posts or if Stential liked one of their posts or whatever, and started chatting and was like, I'm a record label. Yeah, I'm really busy right now. But like, if you guys have anything coming out, send it to me. I'll listen to it. And at that point, we didn't really have anything outside of like a demo tape that we had that we recorded through the headphones of a fucking PlayStation remote.
Okay. That
That was our first thing on Bandcamp. was
that's a
was literally
first.
recorded on a laptop through a gaming system. So when we actually got the recording, I sent the label the recording, and immediately he was like, "Yeah, this is it. We're putting this out." So that was awesome.
Okay. Yeah, it's like that's one of those labels, like they seem to come like relatively out of nowhere to me anyway, and then they just had a lot of stuff in the
Hmm.
works or already out, or whatever. It's really cool. But yeah, that's wild. It was like more or less like before anything had been, properly recorded, and then it was just from there. It was just like, okay. So like that EP just came out in October, right?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, late September, maybe early October
Okay.
of this 2024. Yeah.
Okay. And you said like relatively quickly that you were already chatting with Josh about doing like the next recording. Now you
Correct.
sent me two songs,
Correct.
which are more or less one. It's like a mega song. It's like a
So yeah, it's one piece. It's like a concept. It's like one piece that we break up into two songs.
it's you all are like the screamo yes or something like no, but like uh what is that the whole recording that you did with Josh? Was those two songs, or are
So
those songs part of a larger? thing?
They're part of a larger. So those were like a concept that our guitar player Harry had, that we put together, and then we have three other songs that are going on. One is a re-recording of 5 minutes between from our first record, and two of them are brand new songs that we're going to put onto the new record. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like more or less a new 5-song EP, but with like one
Correct.
re-recorded song. Okay.
Correct.
You know, you keep talking like you're like, yeah, these two songs were a concept, and then the first whole EP is a concept. Like,
Right.
um, how do you parse like to me? And I'm not saying this is a right or wrong thing, but in my brain, because my brain just don't work like that. Like, how I could not have these two songs are a concept. This other song is a part of a concept, but we're separating it, and then we have these other two songs. Like, are these other two songs just like they don't have anything to do with either of those things? Like, how do you like? How are you just like explain? Like, is there a theme overall that's tying all these things together, or is it just like, hey, these are 5 songs, like dig them?
So I think the overall theme of this new record is oh man, that's tough because we've discussed it. You know, we've discussed it. We're putting the 5 minutes between on this record because Josh suggested we put another song on in case we were to put out a full length. You know, so we decided that's how we grabbed that one. The other two songs that we're putting on there deal with like depression and anxiety and having panic attacks. Whereas like the concept of deforestation, reforestation is all of that in and of itself together. You know, like Harry wrote that song and he claims, not he claims, but he says that it's about getting a house plant and trying to keep it alive. And like the anxiety and the fear and the insecurity of all that. Now, that's what I thought when we first started playing it too. But like when we play that piece now, like I think about my daughter. You know, I have a 10-year-old, and there's a lot of things in that song that I equate to raising a child.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I
and
can see that.
so that's what that song kind of means to me. And you know, our other two songs are dealing with you know, depression and anxiety and panic, and it kind of all like goes together, you know, as in like whereas those two songs are the two concept songs, the other songs kind of like I would say complement the main piece, you know.
Yeah, it's there's a lot there like that I could, you know, it's I'm not it's like I get like where I get where the idea like would come from for where you're like like taking care of this plant is intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then like but then at the start of like lockdown or whatever, I started trying to do this thing where and like I was what I thought to myself was I am going to take all these avocado pits that I have and I'm going to grow them, and cuz you know when at the beginning of lockdown we all had these like great ideas like like that one day like we would know a world that doesn't have COVID anymore. Like we we could imagine that at that time, right? So I was in my head, I was like, this is something that I'm going to do. And then when this is all over, like, and we, and like, I can give I can give my friends one of these plants. Like, and I had so many, like, I was like eating avocados, so I had so many avocado plants that I was trying to grow. And let me just tell you, they're really fucking hard to grow. Like
I can
I
imagine.
killed like all of them, you know what I mean? And so like at first I was like really like, this isn't like, and I would get one going and then like I'd put it in the soil, like, cause I was trying the water thing at first,
Right.
and then I'd put it in the soil and then it would die in the soil. And you're like, what the hell? And it was like, it was real anxiety inducing, etc. But then, and I don't mean this to sound bad, because I still respect it as like, a form of life, and I do my best. But after a while, especially with like avocados, right? It's just like I'm just like, okay, I'm planting
Right.
another one now. Like next time I'll get them. And yeah, and so when you are like, you're like, yeah, and then when I play this song, it's like it to me, it's like it reminds me of like the feelings like from my daughter and stuff. And like I have like a daughter and two sons, and I'm like, yeah, that's a big there's a big
Right.
jump from one of
Sure.
those concepts to the next, and how that would inform the way that you play and react to the song. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I just was, like, there. I mean, there's so many songs that I've written about my children and stuff, like, and specific. I will specifically, like, I can specifically, like, this one, and this one are they're specific to my particular children. But like, it's it's kind of like, with me personally, it's kind of like every time I go out there, like, it's part for me and it's part for them, in a way, right?
Sure.
Because I'm like, this is taking me away from them, so it's got to be worth it, right? And
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I also like, I I don't it's it's weird, right? Because like, when you're a band person and your kids are just around that, they're just like, I don't care. Right? But like,
Right. Oh man.
I was always like, this is like, all their friends, like parents and stuff, like, just come home and watch TV, and like, that's fine. They're providing for their kids at their jobs, and they're, and like, they just want to come home and relax and watch TV, and like, that's totally fine. But like, I'm like, but isn't that cool that, like, they can be like, and also, like, all these people listen to, my Mama's music, and all these
Right.
people,
Right.
and my Mama's been on tour, like, around the world, like, not all the way around, but a good, halfway at least.
Sure.
But like, you know what I mean? And I always thought, I was like, maybe that is inspiring, and I think, like, maybe later, because right now
Yeah.
they're just like, I don't care,
Sure.
Oh,
Sure.
you wrote some songs. Big whoop. I played Minecraft.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So my daughter, she wears her Stential shirt to school. She's given out a couple of the Stential pins to some of her friends. She thinks it's really cool when her friends tell her that they listen to her dad's band on Spotify or Apple Music or something. She'll come to the show. She actually ran the merch table one or two times, which, like, she thought she was, like, super cool doing that.
Yeah, that's fun.
But for the most part, though, she could give a shit about the band.
Yeah. My daughter was really into it when she was really young. She would have a microphone with no cord, and she would just
Okay,
like yell stuff. And like she had her little, blast zone earphones over her ears,
right.
and I showed her a video of that. Like, I don't know, she's an adult now. She doesn't live here anymore.
Right.
But I showed her a video of that maybe 5-6 years ago, and she was like, "That's not me," and I was like, "Yeah, it is,"
Right.
But yeah, it's funny. But yeah, my kids that live here now, they're just like, "Yeah, that's cool, I guess." I don't like. Sometimes I'm like I had a show in town, which I never play like in town because Lafayette's kind of small and we don't have a lot of shows around here. But like my
Right.
friends' bands came through and they booked a show at a coffee shop. They wanted us to play, so we went over and played. It was really cool. But I asked like my 14-year-old, said, "You want to go?" He was like, "Nah, I'm good." I'm like, "Okay,
Right.
all right,
Right.
see you later then."
So do you think that like there's something about that nowadays? Like because there are so many people in so many bands, like maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you were in a band, it meant something different than it does now.
I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's necessarily that or if it's just because like
Mm,
my kids have always like I've I've got a drum set up that anybody's allowed to play whenever they want. I've got a couple of specific guitars that people are allowed to just like play whenever they want. I have like practice amps that people are allowed to plug in and play. I've got
right.
keyboards. And I mean, every once in a while, like my younger son, who is 10, like he'll come down and he'll do that. He'll mess around and I think it's just like because they've been around it so much. I think if it was more of a rare flavor to them,
Mm,
that it would be different. But
right.
it's like, and especially like my 14-year-old, I think it's like he's at that age where, like, if I started liking, like, the thing that he really liked, like, too much, he wouldn't
Mm,
like it anymore. Because he's
same.
gotta,
Same.
yeah, he's gotta have his thing that's
Sure.
different. But um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, um, like, I think um, as far as like they're like they're not like out like outwardly like against music and stuff, but
Mm,
it's like, yeah, it doesn't interest them because I don't know, they've always been around it, it's always been playing, it's always like, I mean, they would come to shows when they were younger, but it's like they want to do their own thing now.
right.
But
Right. For sure. For
yeah.
sure.
So y'all got these 5 songs like more
Hmm.
or less ready to go. Like what is the plan to release these things? When can people expect it? And what, like, is it going to be another tape, or is there, like, what are the plans for it?
So we are looking for a vinyl release. We're currently speaking to a couple of different labels right now, seeking labels to put out a vinyl release. Um, that's like the ultimate goal. It should be ready. We're going over. We just got like the final drafts recently, so we should be going over to the studio to button all that up and have it mastered. We're hoping within like the first, now we're in 2025, but within like the first 2 or 3 months of 2025 to have that thing available.
Yeah, it's that's tough. Like, vinyl's a tough market, for
Yeah.
sure. It's a big monetary investment, and
Sure.
depending on how you press it and who you press it with, it can take a awful long time sometimes. But yeah, so it's 5 songs, and y'all are looking for label help,
Right.
and you've got the EP out there now, which, I mean, like, we said that's not even been out there that long necessarily.
Hmm.
So are you all like booking shows at the moment? Do you have any shows coming up that you wanted to put out there?
Yeah, we have shows coming up. Let me see if I can remember them. We have a show coming up February 8th at Jimmy's Tavern in Kearney, New Jersey, with Thief and Poison Ivy.
Oh, Thief, cool.
Yeah, yeah. We have a show February 9th with Brushburn from Pennsylvania. They're new. They're just coming up. They are fucking amazing though. They play music that I would like to play, and that's going to be at Cinco de Mayo in New Brunswick.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
then we have a fest coming up in March 21st at Flemington DIY. I think it's called the Abandoned Fest. And then we're playing a fest in, I think, June. I want to say it's called the Fries Mills Fest. My memory might be a little off. I apologize to the booker of that, or the promoter of that, but I think it's called the Fries Mills Fest in June as of right now.
Yeah. Who's playing the Flemington Fest?
The Flemington Fest is it's still coming together right now, but I know Endless Midnight and this I think it's J3. I think.
Oh, okay.
Again, I don't have the information in front of me, so I apologize. I might be butchering
Is that
the lineup.
did you did you say where that's at?
Yeah, that's at Flemington DIY.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you said, but I didn't want to like speak incorrectly. Yeah, that place is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Dillinger Escape Plan just played there.
I saw that. I saw that. Like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I hope that went smoothly. I couldn't. I was like, I wouldn't want to be the one telling people that they're not allowed to come in, because
Right, for sure.
because I know they were like, this many people can come in, and everybody else can watch through the window, which is like still very cool. But I was like, I
Right.
wouldn't want to be the person, at the door, like, look, we're at capacity. Sorry.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's, everybody seemed to respect that. Nobody threw a, brick through the window. So that's great. Which is, I mean, that's how one of the cooler places in a city I used to live in got shut down. Is something like that
Right.
happened. There was like a cool show, and somebody threw a brick through the window, and
Oof.
that was that.
Yeah, that'll do it for
yeah.
sure, for sure. I was more concerned with the band, because the last time I saw them, they were like swinging from the rafters and shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess they, touring for 25 years and stuff like that. You do learn to read a room, but then again, they
Sure.
do have that one video where they played in a mall or something, and
Right,
people were
right.
like head walking and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah,
But, yeah, sometimes you
But,
can't tell.
True. But the place survived, and it's still going on. We played there once before. I love that room. That's a really fun place.
Yeah, we played there. It must have been, 7 or 8 years ago now, but we did play there once, and it was a lot of fun. Like, mad respect to all those people there. But yeah, it's been real fun chatting with you. But we're sort of at the point here where I usually try to start wrapping
Sure.
things up. Is there anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about that you wanted to put out there, or?
No, I think we covered a lot. I think we covered a lot. I do just want to say thank you. I appreciate you for taking the time, for having us on here. I know we're a newer band, so I really appreciate you giving us the time to talk and just kind of like let people know their music is out there and more is going to be out there as well.
And that was my conversation with Kris Beck. Thank you so much, Kris, for taking the time to chat with me. Thanks to all of y'all for listening wherever you are as well. Don't forget to give us a rate and review wherever it is you are listening, as that helps more people find out about the show. Until next time, take care and do good things.